Oh, hello. Welcome to another Tuesday night live horror reading, guys. Now I've added another, I guess you'd call it a channel, so people can watch this on my personal Facebook page, on the Lovecraft Easing Facebook page, at least all of this in theory, and of course on YouTube, where at least for the moment most of you are. So anyway, happy Tuesday evening, guys. Thanks for spending part of your Tuesday with me, especially those of you who have to get up early and go to work. Um, let's see, who do we have here? And if you're new to this, I'll explain it in just a second. Do this every Tuesday night at 10 Eastern. So Stephen, thanks for what you said. I really appreciate it, man. Comments like that really keep me going. Sincerely. So thank you. Guys, if you're watching live, just okay, you can see me and hear me. All right, never mind. If you're watching on Facebook, though, I'd sure appreciate you letting me know that that you can see me and hear me, okay? And Facebook, that's going to grow, but that's just a way for me to get some more viewers. Okay, so Stephen, Frank, Alan, one of my co-pilots, Alan, Suzanne, Jakester, hey, Scott Thomas, and Kim. How's everybody doing? So, if you are new to this, let me just explain. I've been doing a horror podcast every Sunday live on YouTube for quite a while now, every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern. You can watch live or anytime later. And then about a year ago, I added a Thursday night and a Tuesday night as an experiment. I didn't know if anyone would really watch or not, but apparently people have been. So on Tuesday nights, I read uh, horror stories or fun horror stories or strange but true sometimes stories, things like that. And on Thursday night, I talk about horror, astronomy, just whatever. Yeah, the main thing is about Lovecraft Easing is it's a community, and more than anything else, that's what I want to foster, and just a place for everyone who, all of us weird cosmic horror, weird fiction, horror people can hang out with each other. So, so it is Tuesday night, so I'm gonna read a few things for those of you. I won't keep you too long for those of you who have to get up early in the morning. But it occurred to me one of the things I really like to do is highlight books that I'm really enjoying. And of course, I'm talking about Kindle. If you could see around my office here, you would see hundreds of print books. And I do love print books very much. But print versus Kindle, both of them have their strong suits and positives, and both of them have their negatives. Having, you can see Monty the cat behind me. Having survived two fires in my life, what are you doing, Monty? Where we lost pretty much everything we owned. It's not just digital copies that you can lose. You can lose your books, you can lose anything. Nothing is permanent. So I won't ever get into the print versus Kindle argument because again, I do think that both of them have their positives and negatives. And one of the positives of Kindle is the highlighting. I've got a system set up so in my note-taking program / journal, when I highlight in a Kindle book I'm reading, it automatically sends that highlight to my note-taking program. And I really love that because part of my journal, a huge part of my journal, is not just what I do, but what I read and what I think about. You know, I'm not out there climbing a mountain every day and or or doing all these amazing things that I need to chronicle. I'm not the captain of a ship, but as with you guys too, I live a lot of life in my mind, in my imagination. So that's part of my journal. So that's why I highlight. So let me check over if you'll bear with me for a second. Let me check over on Facebook and see if it's working. That's a big yes. Okay, that's good. It means I've mastered this. So I am behind, by the way, in getting the audio editions of the Sunday podcast out. It's been really hectic around here, but I'll start correcting that as of tomorrow. If you like the audio edition as opposed to watching live on YouTube or Facebook, then starting next week on Tuesday, I'll have the audio edition of the Sunday podcast from 2 days before. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. Double post. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Monty, double posting here? What does that mean, Alan? Double posting here. Oh, you mean on Facebook? Okay. Alan, are you on my YouTube, or excuse me, on my personal Facebook? Yeah, I see you there. Or the Lovecraft Easing Facebook, because it's there too. And let me know what you mean by double posting so I can correct it for next time if possible. Monty has gone crazy. Anyway, you guys may have seen that our friend Laird is back home after being in the hospital 2 weeks. Um, all of you who are members of my Patreon, I really appreciate it. Kelly, yes, he is, and Kim. But I also appreciate you supporting my friend Laird, you know, our friend. And he can use your support. If you are on his Patreon, he posted about the hospital experience today and a little bit about what's coming next for him. So he's not at death's door, but he is going through some real health challenges. So, oh, thank you, Alan. Yeah, I do think Facebook is a few seconds behind YouTube. So, yeah, thanks for letting me know. Also, I got zero work done the last 4 days, almost zero work done. First of all, I had a stomach flu, but even more importantly, my son's cat, his name is Moon, got out. He's an indoor cat. He's not like Jupiter. Jupiter comes and goes. And the short version is he was under the house 90% of the time for 4 days. And this little guy is like my son's unofficial emotional support cat. You know what I mean? And this was really hard on him, not knowing if we were going to get him back. I was putting security cameras under the house that I usually have facing the front porch and back porch. And that was a great comfort. No, no, Monty. That was a great comfort because at least we knew he was there when he came into view. It would have been even worse if we weren't for sure if he was there or not. So last night we finally got him back, and might talk about that a little bit more on Sunday, but I couldn't do anything. I was so worried about Logan that I literally I couldn't read. I was staring at my phone all the time, and I'm not a guy who gets. I'm A friend of mine called me unflappable, and I guess that's probably true, but certainly was not unflappable about this because when my son's hurting, I'm hurting, and uh, and so we were just trying so many things for 4 full days, and then last night we finally coaxed him in, so and he's very happy to be home. So okay, very true, Kim. Now, you may have noticed that I haven't taken the Tuesday night and Thursday night show to Patreon yet. Sorry for all the preamble here. Uh, I'm mostly convinced that I am going to do that. Um, but for now, I'm going to think about it a couple more weeks, and it'll be at the $5 level, so it's going to be really inexpensive. So the Patreon link is at the very top of the show notes, I think, and we're close to it. And listen, this is my job, and I can only keep doing it if you guys support me, and I appreciate you doing that. I wanted to read a few highlights from Stephen King instead of reading one or two stories tonight. I hope that's okay with you guys. You know, I don't I don't think in our cosmic horror weird fiction circles, but I do think that some readers out there think that it's you know, they're I don't know. It's cool to diss Stephen King, I guess, because he's so popular. The fact is, the fact is, King is he the most talented writer ever? No, but he's hellaciously talented. He's very talented. There's a reason why people read his books, and he's not writing trash. He's writing. He's got some, you know, he's a great writer. That's all I'm trying to say. And I thought, man, I got a lot of King books as well as other books in my Kindle library. But so let's read some highlights from some. Now, I think that Night Shift was Stephen King's first collection, and that's about the mid 70s. Do I have that right, guys? Um, so he's got a forward. John D. MacDonald, he of Travis McGee fame, introduced the book, and Stephen King wrote a foreword to this collection. And it's my favorite foreword or introduction to a Stephen King book, and possibly my favorite foreword ever. It starts off, let's talk, let's talk, you and I. Let's talk about fear. And remember, this is the mid 70s or so. The house is empty as I write this. A cold February rain is falling outside. It's night. Sometimes when the wind blows, the way it's blowing now, we lose the power. But for now, it's on. And so let's talk very honestly about fear. Let's talk very rationally about moving to the realm of madness and perhaps over the edge. And I've always just pictured him on some cold, stormy February night in Maine writing this and felt like I was looking over his shoulder. In the stories that I'm skipping ahead, in the stories that follow, you will encounter all manner of night creatures, vampires, demon lovers, a thing that lives in the closet, all sorts of other terrors. None of them are real. The thing under my bed waiting to grab my ankle isn't real. I know that, and I also know that if I'm careful to keep my foot under the covers, it will never be able to grab my ankle. You guys read Summer of Night by Dan Simmons? There's a couple of brothers in the 60s that the younger brother believes very strongly in this, and Simmons does a really wonderful job of it. I can't recommend Summer of Night enough. It's right up there with Stephen King's It, in my view, and uh, Jeffrey Ford's what is it? The Something Year. Anybody know? Jeffrey Ford year. The Shadow Year. Yeah. The Shadow Year is very good. This okay with you guys? Some Stephen King quotes? Some of my favorites. We would be here all night if I read all of my favorite Stephen King quotes and highlights. That's now just another one, I think. The great appeal of horror fiction throughout the ages is that it serves as a rehearsal for our own deaths. Very cheery, but this is a horror podcast. Looking at Felix's comment. Possibly. I you're okay. Here is the very end of that forward, and I still picture myself looking over King's shoulder in the mid-70s while he writes this on a stormy night. Really appeals to my imagination. Um, where I am, it's still dark and raining. We've got a fine night for it. There's something I want to show you, something I want you to touch. It's in a room not far from here. In fact, it's almost as close as the next page. Shall we go? And of course, the first story in that collection is Jerusalem's Lot. All right. Let's head to a Stephen King book called Revival that I may never read again because its ending is just so horrifying to me, and many people have said that. But I did really enjoy reading the book. So I say that, but I probably will read it again. So to set up these few lines I'm about to quote from Stephen King's Revival, this pastor has lost his wife in a car accident, I believe. It's been about 10 years since I've read it. And it is a vast understatement to say he loses his faith. Now, his last sermon in his church, he starts talking about how every church thinks that they've got the hotline to the Almighty, and talks about this is horribly simplified, but hey guys, bad things happen to good people. Where's God in all this? Uh, Millions have been burned, shot, hung, racked, poisoned, electrocuted, and torn to pieces by dogs, all in God's name. My mother was sobbing audibly, but I didn't look around at her. I couldn't. I was frozen in place. By horror, yes, of course, I was only 9. But there was a wild exultation, a feeling that at last someone was telling me the exact, unvarnished truth. Part of me hoped he would stop. Most of me wished fiercely that he would go on, and I got my wish. Well, Kim, uh, revival is Lovecraftian to the core, cosmic horror, and it does name check Lovecraft and the Necronomicon in it, but not in a pastiche way. It's not cheap. Um, let's see what else we have in um, in revival. There we go. The dream came less often now, and it had been at least 4 years since I had awakened to find myself poking at my skin. The last time with the spatula, which had done 0 damage. No, you're right. Pete Rollick writes, absolutely the best pastiche you'll ever read. Um, it's no worse than a small surgical scar, I told myself, and usually I could think of it that way. It was only in the immediate aftermath that I felt something lurking behind the dream, something malevolent. And then my favorite quote from the book, I think. Stephen, yes, it is. But sometimes a person who fits none of these categories comes into your life. This is the Joker who pops out of the deck at odd intervals over the years, often during a moment of crisis. In the movies, this sort of character is known as the fifth business or the change agent. When he turns up in a film, you know that he's there because the screenwriter put him there. But who is screenwriting our lives? Fate or coincidence? I want to believe that it's the latter. I want that with all my heart and soul. When I think of Charles Jacobs, my fifth business, my change agent, my nemesis, I can't bear to believe his presence in my life had anything to do with fate. It would mean that all these terrible things, these horrors, were meant to happen. If that is so, then there is no such thing as light, and our belief in it is a foolish illusion. If that is so, we live in darkness like animals in a burrow or ants deep in their hill, and not alone. So, revival. So, this good, guys, or am I losing you? Well, let's see. Oh man, I reread. Uh, what got me on this is I've been rereading some stories, various stories from King's collections, and I read for the first time in maybe I don't know how long. I reread The Man in the Black Suit. All That You Love Will Be Carried Away, Riding the Bullet. Let's quote Riding the Bullet. Leaving the bedside lamp on helps, but not as much as you might think. Thanks, guys. There are so many more shadows at night. Have you ever noticed that? Even with the light on, there are so many shadows. The long ones could be the shadows of anything, you think. Anything at all. Moving forward, the way I looked at the world changed that night, changed quite a lot, and nothing in my philosophy textbook seemed to fit the changes. I came to understand that there are things underneath, you see, underneath. And no book can explain what they are. I think that sometimes it's best just to forget those things are there, if you can, that is. I I don't know, Stephen. I heard Riding the Bullet wasn't a very good film. I can't even remember. But yeah, the story is great. It's classic King. Um, the man in the black suit is a deceptively simple story. It's one of those works of art that looks so easy, and yet there's so much depth to it. Let's see if there's a quote or two I can read from that. And yet I sensed him somewhere near in those woods, watching me with his grass fire eyes, smelling of burnt matches and roasted fish. Until that Saturday in 1914, I had thought that bears were the worst thing the forest could hold. Now I knew better. There's a really great passage near the beginning of that story. I believe this is in the early 90s. Guys, how's my video? And this guy is like 90, 85, 90 years old, the guy who's narrating this. And he talks about uh, how different things were back then. The town of Mawton was a different world in those days, more different than I could ever tell you. Thank you, Kelly. That was a world without airplanes droning overhead, a world almost without cars and trucks, a world where the skies were not cut into lanes and slices by overhead power lines. You know, a winter really meant something back then. Uh, Mostly, though, the difference was in how people lived, how apart they were. He goes on to say that is only the roof of the thing. Uh, Out of town, the houses were farms that stood far apart from each other. And from December till middle March, we mostly hunkered down in the little pockets of stove warmth we called families. We hunkered and listened to the wind in the chimney and hoped no one would get sick or break a leg or get a head full of bad ideas, like the farmer over in Castle Rock who had chopped up his wife and kids 3 winters before, and then said in court that the ghosts made him do it. In those days before the Great War, most of Mawton was woods and bog, dark, long places full of moose and mosquitoes, snakes, and secrets. In those days, there were ghosts everywhere. I re-listened to All That You Love Will Be Carried Away just last night. And when this salesman is parking at the Motel 6 or whatever he's at, it's like 5 or 6 in the evening, and it's snowing and it's getting worse, and it's February, and he's in the Midwest, which winter in the Midwest uh, is there's nothing like it. Um, Alfie drove around the corner and parked with the nose of his Chevrolet pointed at the white expanse of some farmer's field, swimming deep into the gray of day's end. And at the farthest limit of vision, he could see the spark lights of a farm. In there, they would be hunkered down. Out here, the wind blew hard enough to rock the car. Snow skated past, obliterating the farm lights for a few minutes. I forget the movie/book, but they're driving in winter and I think it's the Midwest, but if not, it sure applies. And they're driving past these stubbed over cornfields covered with snow in the late afternoon, and uh, there it's cold and it's bleak, and there's the sky is charcoal, and she thinks to herself, it is beautiful out here in a bleak, heartbroken kind of way. I don't remember where that's from. I should, but I don't. Maybe one of you guys will. And say, I read some Machen um, last week, and if Machen and Lovecraft is your thing with King, excuse me, you should definitely read Stephen King's In period, in just after sunset. A lot of cosmic horror in that one, and one character says to another in this book, "Have you ever read The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen?" I shake my head. "It's the most terrifying story ever written," he says. And there's a reason why he brings it up in the book. Yeah, Fargo. All right, what else we got here? My throat is getting sore. I think I'm still a little bit sick. But not like I'm breaking bricks. Let's press on. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. Let's see. I recently reread Pet Sematary at the urging of my friend Kelly Young. Speaking of books without hope. And I've got a lot of highlights in this book. Some highlights, some passages I highlight because they just evoke a mood or an atmosphere that I love. For example, Crandall's cigarette glowed like a large, peaceable firefly in the summer darkness. From a radio, low, came the voice of a Red Sox game, and it gave Louis Creed the oddest feeling of coming home. Alan, I haven't watched The Institute, so I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it. Um, Maybe I'll check it out. Let's see here. Pet Cemetery, man. Yeah, I guess she loves it pretty well, Judd said. His use of the present tense felt slightly eerie. The whole setting with the fading light, the cold, and the wind struck him as eerie and gothic. Yeah, let's move on to another book. Oh, speaking of Kindle, have you guys read That's U-R, Stephen King's novella I was re-listening to that. For the most part, Stephen King collections have fantastic narrators. And if you love audiobooks and audio dramas like I do, speaking of audiobooks, then they're a joy to listen to. For example, Crouch End in Nightmares and Dreamscapes is read by Tim Curry. But it's U-R, Frank. N is the one with the weird standing stone, Stephen, and is the one with the Kindle. Now, King, when this was right when Kindle was a new thing, what, 2002, something like that. And so King thought, you know what, I'll write a story for this Kindle thing, if I remember correctly, is what he explained, and it's in some way going to be about a Kindle. No, it's not EUR, it's just UR. Sorry. But man, and if you like audiobooks, that's a damn good listen. Of course, it's a damn good story to read too. Um, couple of quotes, couple of highlights. Take a drink. What I need is another of my wife's popsicles. Like to steal those. He thought he would lie sleepless for hours, thinking of all those other worlds, but in the dark they seemed as unreal as actors when you saw them on a movie screen. They were big up there and often beautiful too, but they were still only shadows thrown by light. Maybe the worlds were like that too. What seemed real in this post-midnight hour was the sound of the wind, the beautiful sound of the wind, telling tales of Tennessee, where it had been earlier this evening. Lulled by it, Wesley fell asleep, and he slept deeply and long. And here's a one sentence highlight. He thought one of the universal truths of life was that sooner or later, someone always paid. But I'll tell you guys, boys and girls, guys and girls, if you haven't read In, if you haven't read and for that matter, Crouch End, uh, man, start with those. Um, you know, sometimes I think reading Stephen King, especially his short stories, is like slipping into a warm bath or hot tub, you know? Uh, I don't know if that analogy makes any sense at all, but there it is. Who said you were going to get sense with me? Yes, he is, Stephen. He's a great short story writer, and he's got a lot of great novels too. There are some novels I haven't been able to get into, I'll admit. Blasphemy, I know, but I've never been able to get into The Shining. I have yet to get to through his Dark Tower books, which I know is the core of his universe slash multiverse. Um, my friend Ben Handelman, friend and Patreon, told me, "Hey, skip the first book. Just look up a spoiler-filled synopsis of it on the internet, and then go to book two." So I may do that. There's seven of them, right? All right. Everything's eventual just after sunset. What was the other collection I was reading in the last couple of days? Uh, yeah, it was those. It was those two. All right. I do have The Shining in my Kindle library, though. I must have got it for $1.99 sometime. So I will I will attempt it again at some point. Uh, oh, there's Night Shift. I couldn't find it before, but I've already read from there. Now he wrote a book called Fairy Tale a couple of years ago. What is my favorite King novel? Uh, Let me look at the list here. You guys know how my memory can be, but I don't know if this thing is listing all of the Stephen King books. There's it. Oh, here's the Bizarre Bad Dreams. Um, Hang on again. I'll give you a list of several of my favorites. Stephen King novels. Because let's include the ones that I have on in print as well. Yeah, Salem's Lot. I probably read it 3 times. Stephen, my first the book that I was going to list first is was actually From a Buick 8. I love that. Our friend Kelly Young says that it's a book without a third act, but it still works. And yes, also got some cosmic horror in it, but just, the 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 people, the characters in that book, you believe that they're real. I mean, he really knows how to create people. Maybe that's a obvious um, thing to say because writers need to be able to do that, but he's very talented at it. All right. I will say Salem's Lot is up there. From a Buick 8 is probably at the top or near the top. And let's see here. I'm going down. Oh, yes. Duma Key is another of my favorites that I've read several times. Um, Maybe C, maybe no. The I think from Stephen and everyone, I think From a Buick 8 and Duma Key are a couple of really underrated Stephen King books that I don't think get quite the appreciation that they deserve. I would really dearly love to see both of those, on a Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever TV series. Um, yeah, yeah, those books that I just mentioned. Then of course, if you're talking novellas, In and well, we've already talked about those. Yeah, those three. Yeah, Kim. So many great voice actors in from a Buick 8. It's an experience. All right. Well, I don't know if I'm going to get to this tonight, guys. Am I holding that up right? Yeah. But I'll read one of these next Tuesday and maybe some more Mocking or something. Find something really good to read. Blaze, Big Top. Fairy Tale's got some cosmic horror in it. Um, Bag of Bones, that's a good one that I haven't read in a while. Let's see what I highlighted in there. Oh yeah, here's what I do remember is a feeling I'd had before when I was down here, especially when I was walking this road by myself. It was a sense that reality was thin. I think it is thin, thin as lake ice after a thaw, and we fill our lives with noise and light and motion to hide that thinness from ourselves. My voice volume been okay this whole time? I've been adjusting it. But in places like Lane 42, you find that all the smoke and mirrors have been removed. What's left is the sound of crickets and the sight of green leaves darkening toward black. Branches that make shapes like faces. The sound of your heart in your chest. The beat of the blood against the backs of your eyes, and the look of the sky as the day's blue blood runs out of its cheek. What comes in when daylight leaves is a kind of certainty that beneath the skin there is a secret, some mystery, both black and bright. You feel this mystery in every breath, you see it in every shadow. You expect to plunge into it at every turn of a step. I, the heat is not let up here. Oh, jeez. Really like this sentence here. What comes in when daylight leaves is a kind of certainty that beneath the skin there is a secret, some mystery both black and bright. So you guys got to get to work tomorrow. So I'm going to read, I think, one more, and then I'm going to go to bed. My wife's in bed, and I want to join her. Yeah. What do I have in this one? It was two. This is from Bizarre Bad Dreams. Morality is the name of the story. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, the hour of conspiracy, if there ever was one, she thought. Oh, is also in the Bizarre Bad Dreams. The rising wind moaned around the buildings and rattled late November leaves along the sidewalks. And insomnia. I'll tell you what is not a good audiobook experience, Kim and everyone, is Insomnia. His novel Insomnia. The novel I like just fine. The audiobook, it's so weird, and they have this crazy music in spots, and you can't hear the narrator over the music. I don't recommend it, but I do recommend the book. There's a lot of distance between should be and will be. Yeah, don't spend the credit on that one. All right, I think I've got more, but I think I'll leave it there for tonight. Except let's do a classic, Salem's Lot, real quick. And this is the vampire who's been around for a very long time. Speaking of do you know how beautiful the people of your country and your town are, Mr. Bryant? They have never known hunger or want, the people of this country. Yes, it is, Kim. It has been 2 generations since they knew anything close to it, and even then it was like a voice in a distant room. And this is the part that I highlighted. They think they have known sadness, but their sadness is that of a child who has spilled his ice cream on the grass at a birthday party. Now, it's not just true of nations. Sometimes I look at the fake outrage and so forth on social media, and I think how wonderful it must be to have lived your life where that is actually a huge thing to you, you know? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to bed, kiss my wife, go to sleep, And while I drift off to sleep, I'm gonna keep re-listening to And Frank, that is you are. So, guys, thank you for joining me tonight. And for those of you who are patrons, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I need your help. The link is at the top, and my email is in the show notes too. And please do feel free to email me if you have requests, things that you'd like me to read in the future. I can read quotes of people like Stephen King and so forth. Obviously, I can't read one of his stories, even though I'd love to. But I can read things that are in the public domain, or if the author has given me permission. So good night, and hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you Thursday at 10 Eastern. Bye.